Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I thought I would do a quick video on the This Is Us Season 5 Episode 2. This was the second episode of the season. Wasn't anything super great, but there were a couple topics that I wanted to kind of bring up here. So because November is National Adoption Awareness Month, I did want to address different adoption related topics throughout the month. And two came up in this episode that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit. So the first one is Kate and Toby's prospective open adoption. This episode was about them meeting a prospective birth mother who's pregnant. And for someone who, like myself, who has no ties to open adoption, the whole encounter, so I have no idea, I have no way to reference, like, is this a typical encounter for a birth mother trying to pick a family to give their child to? I have no idea. What I do know is from just watching the episode, my reaction was very, like, this is uncomfortable. Like, this is really casual and upbeat, and they're having fun, like getting to know each other. And I get that people, you know, when you feel like you've made a connection, there's like a spark there. And, you know, obviously Kate and the birth mother liked a lot of the same pop culture and that kind of thing. Toby had a seemingly more natural approach to it. Like, he wasn't overly excited. He approached it with caution. The whole encounter was just super casual for me. And like I said, I have no reference as to how those meetings actually would go, but the whole thing felt really light and accessible. So light and accessible, I would say. So for someone like myself, transracial, international adoptee, reunited with my birth family, just the level of detail that they know about each other. So if Kate does adopt this baby, she will know the birth mother better than most adoptive parents, or, you know, of a closed adoption for sure, and certainly international. It's to know what that person's favorite band or favorite sports team or their life is like in any way. And obviously this was a brief encounter, so I'm not saying that they are best friends or anything, but like that level of accessibility was really foreign for me to watch, given my personal experience with adoption. And that was one kind of talking point I wanted to see what other people think about, especially if you're coming from a place like myself, like if you're also a Korean adoptee. Like, how do you feel about that encounter? Like, or if you have ties to open adoption and you've been through that, then I'm curious to know, like, did This Is Us get it really off for this portrayal of this aspect of adoption, which is very possible. Like I said, like I have related very closely to many things that This Is Us has portrayed through Randall's struggles and that kind of thing. So I think, and I'm not saying they get it all right, and I'm not saying that right or wrong that I've identified with certain things, but for this, like, I don't know. I'm just curious to know. So anyway, second thing was therapy. So Randall is seeking a Black therapist, which he feels is vital to his success in therapy, which I agree. And I'm not saying the person has to be the exact same as you. So this resonated with me because as a child, my home life, there were some events that happened that had triggered us to like be in therapy. There were two different therapists that I can recall, and I was probably in this 7 to 10 age range when this stuff was kind of at its peak, I'd say. The root of these issues were probably our whole lives, like from when all 4 siblings, like myself and my 3 siblings, were all there, you know, all the way up until we all left. Both therapists were older white females. And I'm not saying that the topics that they were like brought in to address or help process or whatever, I'm not saying that they were directly related to adoption, but they were not unrelated either. And I think what would have changed a lot, so basically like the whole therapy thing for me was barely a blip on the radar. Came to our home and they did individual sessions with each kid. It wasn't anything for me. It was completely useless. So, and I'm not saying therapy in general is useless. I think that therapy was. And I don't know if it's like the difference kids versus adults not being taken as seriously, or just not being validated in the same way maybe an adult's like feelings or portrayal of feelings would be, or maybe they were just really like crappy therapists, which is possible as well. But I know that there was no connection there, and I know that any struggles that we were going through, or like, I can't speak for my siblings, but like that I was going through related to adoption or being different or looking different, or the events going on in the home that I think probably ultimately were related to adoption. There was just no way that that person, these therapists could identify with any of that. And I'm not saying that the person had to be adopted or that they had to be Korean or Asian necessarily. I think if you're a minority, I think, and if you feel like any of your topics are in that racial arena, I think it's probably helpful to have a minority therapist. So I think Randall, I think I can totally support that, his viewpoint on that for himself. It's a little homework assignment there of sharing a story helps identify who he is. Like, I think it definitely hit home for me. So, if you didn't watch the episode, or if you had no plans on watching the episode, it was basically Kate's girlfriend was over, and they were doing schoolwork or whatever, and Randall was there. And throughout the whole episode, they're kind of showing clips of her like flirting with him and her like seeming really interested in him. And then it's just at the end that we see like the full encounter between him and the friend. And it turns out like she always wanted to kiss someone who looked like him, or like I don't know if that was the exact wording, but like it wasn't that she was really into him just as like a boy and a girl. It was that she almost wanted to or check like maybe kissing a black person off the list or something like that. Like, and so that's really icky, and it's really probably very common, I would guess. So I definitely felt for Randall in that situation, as if it's not hard enough to be just a teenager dealing with the regular teenage issues, but then he has, this added layer of racial awareness that none of the rest of his family has to ever think of or deal with. So when his mom comes in and like checks in on him at like the end of the night and was saying like, oh, like I forget the girl's name, but so-and-so seemed nice, and without those two like couple little words, like I always wanted to kiss someone who looked like you, it changes everything, because it was obvious that the girl seemed into him, and that was apparent to the mom and to the dad too, just walking in on them, and she's sitting really close to him like watching TV and stuff. And so from the outside it looks like a innocent teenage flirtation, but then when you get down to it, it was something completely different, and something he had to deal with like on his own. Oh, and then like his daughter there, who was kind of acting out, and like, I mean, what seems to be acting out, but she was actually standing up for herself and her friend or whatever. Like, he was saying he's proud of her for like speaking out, because like it was something that he didn't do for himself growing up, and he just wasn't able to articulate that type of hurt. Overall, like I said, the episode was but those couple topics that were brought up here are really valid, and I think that it just hopefully brings some level of awareness to the intricacies of adoption. If I were an adoptive parent and I had a transracial child, I think therapy, if approached in the right way, taking efforts to find the right therapist in the right match, because I think that without a proper connection there, it's just a waste of everybody's time, honestly. I think the biggest issue with my therapy experience, and I'd be willing to bet my siblings as well, was just this outside person who had no chance. Like I said, they were older, like white ladies who had no chance of understanding the whole conversation and the whole saying, where it's like, it's exhausting to educate people who have no idea. And it's not really our job to educate people who have no idea. And that's kind of what my memories of therapy was. Like, it's like, okay, where do we even start here? Like, there's too much to unpack that we could get through in an hour session, or an hour session every day. Like, and it's not my job to educate you. In a lot of ways, like, it's just, there's just not going to be the level of understanding that's needed. Maybe it's harsh of me to say these things, but it's just my lived experience, and I'm sure a lot of adoptees have fantastic experiences with therapy and gain a lot from it, and I just wasn't one of them. I completely support the mental health professions, and I think that that's really important work, but I think that it has to be a connection, and it has to be the right match. The material is too sensitive for it not to be. That's just my 2 cents. This is Us, Season 5, Episode 2. Okay. But yeah, the open adoption thing was very weird to me, and the Randall therapist situation, I definitely support his path in this, and I think he's definitely in need of an outlet for all of his pent-up racial suppression that he's experienced his whole life. And it's interesting to see the disconnect between he and Beth as well, because Beth is obviously Black. I had a completely different experience, seemingly, like with her Black identity and her racial awareness. I'm sure is a completely different take. So interesting. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the episode. If you liked it, if you didn't, if you were like me and were like, but kind of interesting points. And also if you are connected to open adoption, tell me, was that like a typical encounter, or am I the only one that felt like this is too light of an atmosphere to be, I don't know, to be thinking about exchanging a child and giving my child away, or I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about that. But yeah, thanks for watching if you made it this far. If you like this video, hit the like button. I really appreciate it. And consider subscribing. I don't think I'll do this for every episode. It'll only be for topics that get brought up that I think are worth investigating a little bit more. I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.